Hi, this is Sally Morgan. I'm a physical therapist, a craniosacral therapist, and a Tellington T-Touch practitioner for animals and people. And this is Tristan, he's a Corgi, and we're here for another episode of Conversations with a Corgi, where we are continuing our look at the wonderful magic of flowers and flower essences for our health, wellness, and happiness for our pets. And today we are talking about another botanical animal flower essence, and this one is called Safe Journey. And Safe Journey, as you can tell from the title, is for fear of motion. Not motion sickness necessarily, fear of motion. Small spaces and changing places, and fear of moving and issues with moving. And at this time of year, so many people are moving because it's coming near the end of the school year, and many people's children want to finish out a year before they move on to the new place. And so moving is a topical issue at this time, as is traveling for summer vacations, going to your beach house or to your friend's house for a couple of weeks with your pet. It can be a really hard time for them to adjust. So Safe Journey would be the flower essence you'd want to use at that time. Safe Journey is for courage to face trailering and traveling issues. And again, so many horses, you get them, they come with you home, and then they don't want to get on the trailer after that. And one of the things you could try is Safe Journey. Horses, in particular, have a hard time moving from place to place because they really are herd animals and they get very attached to the horses where they are. So when you get them in the trailer, they know they're leaving. And until you have horses like mine that went to shows frequently, they don't know that they're coming back. And so it's really important to assure them verbally, we're just going to a show or a trail ride with our friends and we will come home and you will see your friends again, because this is a huge concern for horses. So Safe Journey is great for trailering. It addresses nervousness, hysteria, anxiety, fear of confined spaces, motion sickness during travel, and it instills a feeling of safety and security to release attachment to those left behind. So in fact, when I moved my horse from New Jersey back up here, he had a very close friend in the herd down there. In fact, this horse, Snowden, was actually a blind horse. And in fact, his owner, Carly, and I did a lot of work with Burgers and Snowden before we moved away Burgers back up here. And if you read my book, Dances of the Heart, Connecting with Animals, you'll see some of the things we did, which really consisted of spending time with the two horses together and meditating with them and imagining the separation, imagining everything going smoothly, letting them see what was happening and have another visit with each other before we put Burgers on the trailer to actually begin our journey. And Safe Journey is a wonderful flower essence to use at a time like that. And in fact, Snowden went on that evening to bond with another older horse in that paddock named Frizzle, and he became the new seeing eye horse for Snowden, just as Burgers had done prior to that. So flower essences like Safe Journey can really help improve your smoothness of transition, moving horses and moving your dogs. Sometimes, you may have been caring for a friend's dog for a number of weeks while they are out of town, and when that dog is going to leave to go back to his home, that's a time of tough transition, and Safe Journey would be a good flower essence to use at that time. So of course, one of the things that you'll notice about what is in Safe Journey are a lot of tree flower essences, and trees are always good for grounding and connection to your higher self and your roots. And so you will see when we look at these specific flowers that are in this flower essence Safe Journey that they do contain those properties of grounding and connecting to your higher self. The first flower that's in it is from the European beech tree, which is also called the goddess tree. And that has typically been associated, as I mentioned the other day, with strength in your hair and growing hair. And hair has typically, historically, anciently, been associated with your strength and power. The nuts in European beech are high in B6. And in a famine, those leaves are high in fiber and bulk. And so they also improve digestion and can make you feel full if you're eating them at a time when there is no food. The leaves boiled decrease headaches, and the bark is loaded with antioxidants. And the seeds are toxic, but in fact they can increase kidney function because they clear out toxins, seeds, waste, and water. It acts as a diuretic, similar to like dandelion. And European beech can increase your metabolism. And it, as I mentioned the other day, prevents neural tube defects and decreases nervousness. So again, as I mentioned before, this is one that would be really good for Cavalier King Charles Spaniels and other dog breeds that are prone to having neural tube issues. So English walnut could be what you need to help with some of those SM symptoms, and it's in several of these flower essences. And as I mentioned before, there was another one we talked about a couple of days ago where, and in fact that was Life's Changes, and that might be a good one to use for your Cavaliers. The roots of the European beech are known to increase circulation in the soil and bring air to the soil, which is important not just to the beech tree, but to the trees living around it. And it can improve the growth of those trees in that area. And one of the other interesting qualities of the beech tree is that it doesn't lose its leaves until very, very late in the winter into the spring. So it protects the little seedlings around it. So of course this property of protection is what you want when you're facing safe journey, moving, leaving, coming and going from different places. Flower remedies enhance sympathy and tolerance when they're from the beech tree. And they can signify death or an ending. However, transition times like moving are times that are an ending. They are a transition, is the death of your old life and the growth of your new life. So having a beech flower essence in Safe Journey is an important aspect of that. And interestingly, when you are moving, you'll be crossing a new threshold, and the European beech tree has been associated with crossing a threshold, a change, a shift in your life experience. And it can help you see the relevance and importance of your experience. So again, that idea of connecting to your higher self, to see the meaning of what's happening. Sometimes you have to move and you don't even want to. You know, your lease is up, or, you know, your friends want you to move in with them, but you love where you're living, so you're moving anyway. Whatever the case may be, it's really important to see the higher purpose in that move. And sometimes you're moving from a big, wonderful place to a small, tiny place out of necessity. You know, maybe you had to move quickly and you couldn't find a new place. Maybe your finances changed. Maybe you're just downsizing, but it's still emotionally difficult. And so connecting with the higher self can really help ease that transition. And we get that property from the European beech flower essence. And it increases your knowledge of unknown experience and helps with revelation. So when you have that unknown experience and you don't know the meaning of it, the European beech can help you reveal what the meaning is of that transition in your life. And sometimes it's a good thing and sometimes it's a hard thing. Sometimes it's, you know, moving into a smaller space, not that you wanted to do that, or you know, a different area than where you want to live because you have a new job and it's not where you want it to be. But there is important information to be revealed from those kinds of transitions, and the European beech will assist you in finding that. The second flower essence that is in Safe Journey that helps with moving and motion sickness and fear of moving, and that's literal moving and moving from a place, is chamomile. And we've all known that chamomile has calming properties and helps with sleep, and it decreases anxiety and depression. It can also decrease muscle spasms, and it's an anti-inflammatory. And chamomile flower essence in particular has been known to calm your emotions. And when you're moving, things are hectic and chaotic, and you need to remain calm. So calming your emotions during that transition for you and your pets is a good idea. It especially soothes chamomile, the solar plexus, which is the center of your body. And that is an important area for breathing because your diaphragm is there. So in that way, chamomile, which has often been associated with the connection between air and earth and light, chamomile will help influence your solar plexus so that you can keep breathing through the process of the transition. You know, when you get so many things happening at once, and it's such a complicated thing to do moving. And for your dog, you know, maybe you pack the living room first, and then you pack the dining room, and then, you know, you're moving your way up to your room, and maybe this is happening over a week. And so his area of reference is getting smaller and smaller. And so the chamomile can help him keep taking deep breaths when he sees his little bed travel to your car for the move. And it can help be an important part of the process of moving as you're driving to your new place. It could be very far away, it could be nearby, but the chamomile helps make that process, help you handle that process in a more relaxed way. And it regulates and balances the breath and your mood, and it decreases irritability. So chamomile is a great thing to have in a flower essence called Safe Journey for moving, because it does help you stay calm through what is often a very stressful process. Another flower essence that is in Safe Journey, which is a really important one for so many flower essences, is the monkey flower. And as I've said before, the monkey flower is shaped like a monkey's paw, hence the name. And it is a beautiful bright yellow flower, and it's associated with bringing sunshine from the inside out and having basically a good attitude about things. So when your dog is fearful and nervous about moving or traveling, the idea of goodness coming light from the inside out and filling the dark places in your body, which the monkey flower essence can do, is a good thing to help them see this as an exciting, fun trip as opposed to a scary, dangerous trip. The monkey flower helps decrease depression and phobias and fears and sensations of vulnerability, and also decreases oversensitivity, which is an important thing when you're moving. Everything can start to mount up, and you just become more stressed, and your dog and your cat pick up on this, or your horse. So it's a mood lifter. It is good for seasonal affective disorder, and it's bright yellow, and it brings the sunshine to you and to your experience that you're using that flower essence for. So if I were going to a horse show, I certainly would want to use Safe Journey in my horse's water a few days before the show, during the show, and the next day to help him ease with that transition of going out and coming back to the farm. And for horse owners, this is a really important one to have in your medicine cabinet if you are taking your horse many different places. And even if you're going to take him in for, you know, some important work at a bigger medical center than what your vet can provide, Safe Journey is a great one to have on hand, because it's very stressful for horses to have to get in a trailer and move. As I said, leaving their herd mates is really hard for them. It's really important to talk to them about what's happening as it's happening so that they know you're coming back. Or if you're not coming back, tell them about their new friends and their new better stall, or maybe they'll be at your house. So it's really important to keep your horse informed of what's going on, because they are so sensitive to their herd mates and so need our support when we're moving them around. Another aspect of Safe Journey is the English walnut tree. And again, a tree. And the English walnut in particular is interesting because when you open a walnut, the walnut inside, the nut meat, looks a little like your brain. And this gets us back to that aspect of Chinese medicine where like feeds like. So if you have cognitive problems, emotional problems, that walnut is a thing to think of because it looks like the brain, so it supports the brain. And in fact, many of the oils in walnuts are really helpful for brain health. So English walnut is useful for psychic protection. It is for life's transitions, and it's helpful to break links that are no longer serving you. So if you are moving from one place to another and you need to let go of the old place, the English walnut will help you release that attachment so that you are not being pulled really in two directions at once. So when you are taking your horse to the horse show, he needs to forget about his home life and what he's doing with his buddies in the yard and focus on the job for the day. And so the English walnut would help him do that, to really concentrate on his connection with you, maybe the other two horses and another trailer from your farm that came to the show, so that he can really enjoy the day with you as much as you're enjoying your day with him. English walnut is also great for adapting to life changes, particularly changes in the seasons, changes of the years, and any kind of transition in your life. So like the beech tree, the English walnut is associated with transitions. And the leaves are long, skinny ones, as I said before, with a long line going up the middle and little pieces coming off, which represent the transitions in our lives, I think. And that is true of some of the other trees and their shapes of their leaves and flowers that are in this flower essence. And the flowers on the English walnut, in fact, are long, skinny flowers with little branches coming off with little florets on either side, similar to a lilac, only much skinnier. And the walnut is also good for your head and not your heart when you're making decisions. So it helps you think logically and clearly when you're under stress, so that you don't just go with your gut at a time when that might not be the best service to you. So the walnut will help you make clear decisions. And so it will help your dog forget the panic of seeing everything in the house being packed up and piled, and go back to thinking, all right, my mom is weird. She has done many weird things in my life. This is one of them. She still loves me. The food's still coming. I still know where my bed is. So whatever she's doing here is fine. I trust her. So that would be your dog thinking with his head, instead of going into a complete emotional panic as he sees the house packing up. Or the same when you're coming and going from your vacation place, maybe for a week or so with your dog. You know, they are leaving their home and they see you putting a lot of stuff in the car and they don't understand. But the English walnut will help them say, all right, mom's taking me with her, so wherever we're going, it must be safe, because if not, I would be staying home alone and she's taking things. That's not a good sign. So the English walnut can really help your dog think with some head factors and not heart factors when traveling along with you on your journey. The next flower essence that is in Safe Journey is dill. And interestingly enough, I didn't have any dill in my garden, and I went to the farmer's market last week to buy a dill plant. And a friend was there with me, and we were talking about dill and how much I wanted dill. And a woman overheard us talking about it. And in fact, they had no dill plants at the farmer's market. And she had a plot in the community garden up the road. And she said, oh gosh, I would love to have you take some of the dill out of my garden, because otherwise I'm just going to be throwing it away. So later in the day, I followed her up to her garden, and in fact, she had dill growing in a circle around the center of her garden that she did not plant there. And it was amazing how the dill, which is a tall, feathery plant, had circled the center of her garden, and she had had it off to one side. It was quite incredibly, perfectly planted in that circle, even though it just self-seeded. And then there were several little patches on the sides, which I dug up and brought home and planted into my garden. And dill assists with the ability to absorb and assess a variety of sensory experiences. So dill is important for all of your five senses. It supports seeing, touching, tasting, smelling, feeling. Every single aspect of your five senses is met with dill. And so dill is an important one to have with you when you're taking a safe journey, so that you don't lose touch with reality, so that you still have the information from your senses coming in fully and clearly. Because have you ever been so mad where you just like can't hear somebody, or you can't see something, or you know, so emotional about something that you're just not thinking and seeing clearly? So dill is a great thing to help you get clarity from the information from your five senses. And that's really important for our dogs and cats when we're moving. And it's also helpful for overwhelm due to excess stimulation or hypersensitivity. So of course, when I moved to this house and I had Tristan and Comet, and I was packing up the old house little by little, it took me maybe 6 weeks because it was really just me and one or two other people helping move the majority of things before the moving truck came for the big furniture. And it was a very hard transition time for my dogs, and they were becoming more and more sensitive, and there was a lot of stimulation in the environment, people coming and going. And I have to say, Tristan was pretty excited about the whole process, and being young, he was eager to see what was happening next. He didn't have any experience to relate to because he had never moved before, except when I brought him here from New Jersey. And Comet, on the other hand, had moved 3 times with me. And so for him, he knew that we were moving, and he had not even been to the new house because at that point he was so disabled by his DM that he was paralyzed from the front end down to his back end. And so bringing him over here would have been really hard. He was very heavy, and so he didn't come here until we moved in. So of course he was, you know, he was a senior dog. He needed calm and quiet, and instead he had a lot of stimulation and sensitivity about the environment because things were changing and changing. And of course, he was a pretty good guy and he knew me really well, so he wasn't completely stressed out, but it was a little more excitement than he needed. Dill is also useful for digestion, and it's also for hypersensitivity to the environment. So if you have a lot of stressful things going on around you, but your own life is okay, dill would be a good one to choose. As a flower essence, dill helps us to digest life's experiences. And in fact, dill is good for digestion. And I think that's one reason dill is often served with fish, because in historic times, fish were not always easy to preserve. And so the dill would help you digest a fish that had gone probably a little bit past its prime when you were eating it. So it helps you digest life's experiences. It helps keeping you calm and receptive to the food of life. So again, it's another helpful thing to keep you calm and collected when there's chaos going on around you. And dill is from the Norse word to lull. And as you think of lull, you think of lullaby and sleeping, being lulled to sleep. So dill helps keep you in that lulled state of being calm and collected when things around you are in chaos. So that's pretty typical of what's happening when you're moving. You don't even know where you're sleeping from one night to the next as you're making that transition, and that's really stressful for your dog too. So the dill in Safe Journey can help keep your dog calm in that transition. The next tree that is in this is the English elm. And the English elm is very interesting. It's for those who are doing good work, following their life calling, but at times are overwhelmed by their task. And I had to think of my sister as I was reading about the English elm. It's for temporary loss of confidence due to an overwhelming amount of responsibility. Now think about this in relationship to your dog. When you're moving, our dog's jobs are to protect us, to love us, to protect our hearts, to keep us safe from the postal people and the UPS guy, and to let us know when the squirrels are in the yard. And when we're moving and things are in chaos, they can't do their jobs because everything is different. Maybe they don't have a bench to see out the window anymore to see what's coming and going outside. So they can't do their jobs for us. And that sense of not being able to do your job and being overwhelmed by the changes so that you can't continue doing what you've done all the time is an important thing for our dogs when we're moving too. They have a lot of responsibility in our lives that we might not even recognize. And when we're moving and things are changing, it's hard for them to continue with the responsibility that they have chosen or that we have bestowed on them. English elm helps you when you're feeling like you can't cope. And it helps you live life without thoughts of failure. So it helps your dog have some confidence about the moving process. And again, that would have helped Burgers when we were moving him up here from New Jersey to have the confidence that I was taking him home and that he would have a comfortable and safe life for the last of his days, which in fact he did for several years before he crossed the Rainbow Bridge. English elm is useful when the scale of what you are doing causes doubt and crisis. Though you willingly took on the challenge, it's often a good choice for healers, and many people report that their cats and their dogs and their horses are their healers. And so English elm is really important for an animal who has that responsibility of helping us and healing us and protecting our hearts so that they can continue to do that job in a time of great stress, such as moving or a big trip, so that they can continue to protect our hearts and stay with us on our journey with them. And English elm is often useful for those who have a temporary loss of confidence. It's not for someone who lacks confidence, it's for someone who has confidence, but because things are overwhelming, they've temporarily lost that confidence. And that's what happens when you're moving. You usually can control things, you're handling everything in your environment, you're keeping track of the 800 decisions you have to make, and your dog with you, and then suddenly in the moving there comes a point when it's just overwhelming. And the English elm is a good flower essence to have at that moment of overwhelm. And the final aspect of the Safe Journey flower essence is the oak tree. And when you think about the oak, you think of a big, strong, it's a hardwood, it's a long-lasting tree, and that kind of strength that we associate with the oak is in the flower essence of the oak, which is in Safe Journey. And we need that strength and power when we're facing a lot of transitions and moving through life with our pets. And that's for when you're feeling tired or overburdened by your responsibilities. It helps you persevere in spite of difficulties, very similar to the English elm in this way. It's for courageous people who are struggling with difficulties. Again, you may have had confidence and courage in your life, but things are piling up to the point where you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can follow through with this. So the oak and the elm will help you with that. And your dog. It's for steady people or pets who do not give up. And of course, so many of our pets never give up on us. They stay with us through thick and thin, and I have many stories of feeble, decrepit, ancient dogs sticking around until their parents have made transitions in life. And in fact, I talked about one on Conversations with a Corgi way back on like episode 20, a little whippet who lived for 2 or 3 months against all odds to help his mother make the transition from many changes in her life, new apartment, new job, another pet who had passed away, a lot of transitions. And so the oak can really help you when you have had courage and helped your person come through a lot of difficulties, and that may be ongoing. And it's for those who don't want to give up, and that's often what our pets do for us. They don't want to give up. They don't want to let us down. It's when you have to keep going past the point of exhaustion. The strength of the oak will come and help revitalize you so that you can continue on and not feel exhausted. And it does that by connecting you with your higher power, so that your higher power and the divine and nature and the universe and spirit around us can help take some of that responsibility off of our shoulders or off of our pets' shoulders, so that they can make that transition smoothly and easily without feeling overwhelmed. It's for those with a tenacity of willpower and kind of a stoic diligence that just keep moving on. And for those who have many relying on them. And of course, our pets, we might not realize it, but they do feel the sense that we are relying on them. We are constantly looking at them and saying things like, oh, what would I do without you? And how did I ever live without you? And so they do have that sense of responsibility to us. And the English oak helps them carry on to maintain their responsibility for us, even though things are in chaos with the traveling and the journey. It's a remedy when you need your higher self to be your guide and you've lost touch with joy in your life. So the oak can help you refine joy in your life. And you need that when things are just overwhelming and you've had to be responsible for so long. And maybe your dog can't play anymore because you packed up most of his toys and he only has one left. So the oak will help you, the dog, maintain the idea that, in fact, my toys will come back. I trust my people. They can take care of me. And when they see their toys again, they will find that joy. And the oak helps them maintain the belief that that joy is still out there and helps them find that joy when they get to the new place. And they can go back to playing and enjoying life with you. Oak allows life journeys to be more pleasant, and it provides perspective and the power to persevere. So oak is a really important aspect of this flower essence, Safe Journey. Safe Journey from Botanical Animal is good for fear of motion, small spaces, and changing places. It's what you use when you're moving or taking your horse to a horse show, or if your horse has issues with trailering. And in terms of small spaces, a lot of the flower essences in this particular one are from trees, and trees expand upward and expand downward and expand outward. So it helps you feel big even if you're in a small space. It helps you feel like you can persevere and make it through that transition. And of course, so many times when we're moving, we have to put our dog in a tiny crate, especially if they have to go on an airplane. So it's important to have Safe Journey with you if your dog has to be in a confined space for an extended period of time, because many of us, after our dogs are puppies, we don't use their crates very much. I mean, some people do to help their dogs feel safe. My sister has to feed some of hers in crates because they're afraid of the dogs around them, and they just aren't comfortable enough to eat if they don't have something around them. And many dogs are like that. So Safe Journey is the flower essence you will choose for trailering and traveling, nervousness, anxiety, fear of confined spaces, and motion sickness during travel. And it's a great thing to do T-touches on your animal's ears when you're traveling as well, and also during the process of moving. So combined with the Safe Journey Flower Essence, T-touch ear work would really make any transition smoother for you and your dog, because the time you spend doing that T-touch ear work will calm you down and reestablish your connection with your dog, while also addressing those issues of motion sickness and fear of moving and travel. And Safe Journey instills a feeling of safety and security and helps leave those attachments behind that are no longer serving you. So Tristan, we're not moving anywhere. We're going to the beach for a week. He's fine in the car. We do some ear T-touches and talk about the trip before we go. And he's been to the same place many times. So for him, that journey always feels comfortable. So try Botanical Animal Safe Journey if you're experiencing moving, or if you have a horse that you're taking to shows, or a dog that you're taking to agility trials and shows. It will help make the trips to and from these places more fun and less stressful for your dog, so that, or your horse or your kitty, so that they can really enjoy the day when you get there. And I'd like to tell you, just behind me here on the other side of my fence, yesterday there was a very large bear just sort of ambling around looking for food and looking grumpy and hot. And about 10 minutes before he went by, a deer, one of the mama deers that live around here, also walked by that area. And I was so grateful that both of those animals were respectful about my fence, which is only a 3-foot high chain link fence. By no means is it bear proof. And I don't certainly have compost here or bird feeding, because the bears really can create a big problem if you do that. And I am right by a brook loaded with fish, and so I'm sure he had a delicious fish dinner and a little swim. But it was kind of amazing to see such a big, slow-moving, quiet animal moving through my property last night at about 5 o'clock. Usually you see bears earlier in the day or later in the day. And he's been living in our neighborhood. He's been at my friend's house. He's been up the road. I've seen him several times when I was walking Tristan at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon in the darker woods up the street. So I think bears are about security and comfort and feeling safe, because they're a very grounded animal. So it's kind of a pleasure when you get to see them around your property. And we will be back tomorrow for another episode of Conversations with a Corgi, and we'll be continuing to look at flower essences. And this is Sally Morgan and Tristan Corgi from the garden, talking about Botanical Animal flower essences. And over here we have my beautiful delphinium, just blooming today for the first time. Have a great day, everyone.